Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Zala Fasan and today I'm going to talk to you about overlining your lips. Now before we get into anything, I have a confession to make, and that is that I do not know the first thing about overlining my lips. I have to be honest, have to put it out there, I never overline my lips. I think the last time I tried it was probably like 3 years ago, back when I was still in high school and willing to try things. So I definitely do not know how to overline my lips. So you might be wondering, honey, what is the point of doing this video if you can't tell me anything? Well, just because I don't actively overline my lips doesn't mean I don't know how to overline my lips, even though I just said I don't know how to do my lips. I don't know how to do it in practice, but I know all the theory on how to overline your lips. I know you have to contour your lips, I know how you have to overline them and where you have to overline them and where you shouldn't, that you should use different colors, even though that's a little too advanced for me today. So today I'm going to test if knowing the theory has any value in practical application. Because they always tell us in the lab, because I'm in uni, I'm doing a microbiology degree, so I'm in the lab a lot, and they always tell us we have to make sure we know the theory, otherwise we won't know what's going on in the lab. And if we want to understand what we're doing, we have to be up to date with the classwork, yada yada yada. Even though there's been several times I've been in the lab and did not know the theory because I was behind in class, but the lab went well. But that is beside the point. The point is, let's see if all these random facts I know about how to overline your lips can come together to give me the perfect pout today. The first step is you gotta have lips on your face. And obviously, most people would have a set of lips. I am actually pretty happy with mine. I don't think I have the biggest lips out there and I don't think I have the fullest pout out there, but I'm pretty happy with what they look like. And add to that the fact that I am way too afraid to actually get anything done, like fillers or surgery or heaven knows what else is out there. Because it's just needles, it's gonna go in there, it's gonna have to make space to make it put out, and you're gonna have to heal, and you can't do certain things for a while, and it's probably gonna feel tingly and itchy as it stretches to kind of, oh no, like, I'm okay. I have nothing urging me strong enough to get my lips changed, to get me over the feeling of how it actually happens. Which, like, objectively, if I think about how lip fillers happen, it's not weird. It makes sense. The process makes sense to me. However, knowing how it's done and knowing it's going to be done to you are two entirely different things. And I am not ready for such things in my life. So I'm going to have to put my lip overlining skills to the test. And the point is to kind of troubleshoot it with you and to see what works and what doesn't. And if I run into any kind of issues, I'll be able to tell you what they were and how I fixed it. Kind of going through this process so that you don't have to. But back to the steps. Step 1 is you gotta have lips. Step 2 is I'm gonna put on lip eyes because I'm a very dry person and that translates to my lips. I put lip eyes on all the time and I put it on so it makes like a little shape like this. This was actually started by the neighbor. He used to do it like this and we were sharing lip eyes. I'm dating my neighbor, by the way, it's not weird. I'm not just sharing lip eyes with a random dude that lives next to me. We're dating, it's normal, I promise. But before him, I used to put it on kind of like lipstick, so it made like a little point. Does that make sense? Like a little triangle at the end, I used to prefer that. But this one looks like this. The third step for me is going to be to bring you guys closer so you can actually see what I'm doing. And now finally on to the makeup. Now as you can see, I already have a full face of makeup on, everything except for my lips. And I'm going to start with a thin little brush like this. It's not the thinnest brush out there, obviously. It's nice and short, so it's nice and sturdy. And it is nice and wide as well. I'm then going to whip out my contour palette. I'm going to pick up these two shades that I usually use to contour. I would stay away from anything too dark because you want this to look very natural. And this doesn't form the natural shadow of your face the way contouring of your cheeks does. You want to go with something a little lighter. And I'm going to run around the edge of my lips. And honestly, this is something I do on a normal day. I do like contouring around my mouth. I think I just like contouring and this is another step I can do. So I like doing this. And as you can see, this already like pushed my bottom lip out. You're always going to want to tuck your lip in to see if you've aligned there. If you do this, you can see you have like a little brown line there. And I found if I use too dark of a color, you end up seeing it and then you'll see it as you like move around and talk and stuff like that. So it's better to make sure you check like that you've blended it out. You can get away with blending it down a bit further here more than you can on the sides because the shadow would be biggest here naturally and then go thinner as you go out here. So here, make it the thickest part, go right into this little dip here on your chin and let it taper towards the edges of your lips. It also helps to really connect it to the corners of your lips, otherwise it kind of looks like it's floating a little bit. So make sure you get it in there. And this part I can actually give you advice because I actually do this frequently in my makeup routine. So here you can take notes. I then picked up a little bit more and I'm going to touch it right here above my Cupid's bow, just stamp it in like that. And honestly, I don't want too much there because otherwise you're really gonna see it. This doesn't really fall in a shadow the way this does, so it stands out a lot more, it's a lot more visible. If you do it wrong, it looks like the mustache. But then let's get drawing our mustaches. Try and get it nice and thin and close to the edge of your lips. I usually just go like this, brush it back and forth, that way it's blending out as I go. And I make sure to not pick up too much product. I kind of dip my brush in and then dust it off immediately. The customary tap. And if I'm really going ham the way I am today, I take it up a little bit on the side of my Cupid's bow, which I don't think is always necessary, but kind of rounding it off nicely helps. Now, as you can see, I have a lot of lip going on and I don't want it to be too intense and I don't want it to look too unnatural. So now that all the shadows on the places I usually want it to be, I'm going to take my fluffy kabuki brush, which is probably one of my favorite brushes, and I'm going to kind of buff around my mouth. That way everything kind of fades away. This way most of the shadow is also still where you initially put it. You know, it kind of feels like you're ruining everything when you're buffing over it, but most of the shadow is going to stay where it is, and whatever's extra is kind of going to blend over the edges. So you're not just going to make it muddy, you're just going to make it blend in better. But the thing is, now I have a very pronounced Cupid's bow and these lines underneath my nose as well, which, if you didn't know, is a product of the way your face is made. Your face kind of is open when you're like still an embryo, and then it comes together in like 4 pieces, if I remember correctly. And this right here is a line of where it comes together. The more you know. Anyways, for the Cupid's bow, I'm going to take my favorite highlighter. I'm picking it up on a thin pencil brush like this. It's my favorite brush to apply highlighter with. And I'm going to touch it to my Cupid's bow. Honestly, I just let it bump on the ridges I already have there. I don't go drawing on any lines. I kind of just move it back and forth and then it catches the ridges that I have there. I like dragging it down the edges of my lips because that makes it look like it fits in a bit more and not just a random like nose ring looking thing down here that's shiny. But I don't like taking it up too high. I do like taking it up a little bit, kind of again, to just tie it all together, but not all the way up to my nose. And then, because I don't like highlighter being too blinding, I just lightly rub over it a little bit to calm it down. And then there we go. Highlighting and contour done, for now. Now finally, onto lip liner. I have 2 to choose from. I think I'm gonna start with a pink, because in case that doesn't work out, I can actually wipe it off and try something else. Where if I start with a red and it doesn't go well, it's not gonna be a good day. So I'm gonna go in with a pink. This is the color Nude Pink by NYX Cosmetics, and I've definitely used this thing a little bit because it's a little on the short side of life. But if I drag my mirror closer, so you're gonna see me looking down a lot so I can actually see what I'm doing. And I'm gonna start on the outer corners of my lips with a nice and sharp pencil, otherwise I'm not gonna get a good line. Now first, I'm just drawing in the outer third of my lip. Not that you can see much of that. Right here, the outer third, I'm following the natural line of my lip. I kind of like tucking the color in to the corners of my lips, making sure it connects there where my lips actually connect. And of course I did the same on the top as I did on the bottom. And now for the overlining part, this last third, I'm gonna draw it outside the line of my lip and then connect it. So usually I would draw it right on this line because that is the edge of my lip. But now I'm gonna draw right outside that line. Literally, if I had drawn the line on the edge of my lip and the line where I'm overlining, the two would be right against each other, because I don't want to go too far too fast. For this, it helps to tuck your lip in a little bit so you can kind of see what you're doing. Draw it down there and then you connect it to the outer thirds you've already drawn. I'm going to do the same at the top, especially with my Cupid's bow. I'm going to just stick to outside the lines, but instead of drawing it kind of in one swoop, I'm going to draw the inner part of my Cupid's bow and then the outer. Those are the peaks, and now I just need to connect it. And now that that is in place, I'm going to shade in the outer corners of my lips a little bit. Again, the outer third is what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave more space in the middle and kind of shade all the way on the edges. You'll probably see what I'm doing. But I want to color in my lips in such a way that there's kind of just space left for highlighting. Next, I'm going to use an old favorite. This is the LA Girl lipstick in the color Ooh La La. And I'm going to apply it in the center of my lips. So that means right here, tapering a bit to the end. And the idea is that you go over the edges where you drew the lip liner, so the two kind of blend together. And then after this, you can go into the lip liner again and shade it in. And now to me, it feels like it looks a little ridiculous. And I think part of it is I don't like how wide set my lower lip is. I don't really like these parts right here. So I'm gonna just clean up that edge by following right on the end of where I want the lipstick to end with my fingers. And then I'll kind of carve it out the way I want it. That looks a little bit better, so on to the next step. I was told you have to take a lip gloss because this will help hide the dimensions of your lips. Because right now I can see this lower edge and this upper edge, so you can see where my lips are supposed to be. But when I was doing my drag transformation back when I shaved off my eyebrows, it really did help hide my lips by applying some lip gloss. So let's do that. And then this is what I look like with overlined lips, which I think is not the best look. I'm not the biggest fan, I'm not gonna lie to you. But I think a large part of that is the color. This is a very Barbie pink color. Unfortunately, it's the only lip liner I had, but now that I got to practice without any risks, I can take this off and go in with a red. I think my lips definitely do look bigger, but they do look a little too puffy, I think. I think my mouth looks a little wide set now. So I think I'm going to actually underline the edges of my lips and overline the middle part. Yo, this may look fine, but I cannot take myself seriously with this lip color. It just does not do it for me. Now my lips just look bigger because I actually rubbed it and get it off. Now they're actually puffy. Just calm that down. Put some foundation left in my beauty blender. Now let's do it all again with red. This is the color Taste the Red by LA Girl. No, by Essence. This time I'm starting in the middle and I'm going to overline this part at the bottom. I'm gonna add a bit more of curve to it. Then I'm going to underline the edges of my lips. So I'm kind of going to take it straight back to the corner. Make sure to tuck it into those corners. And now for the upper part. I'm going to overline my Cupid's bow even more than I did before. Before I just did one line outside. Now I'm going to go outside where I had just done it because I felt my Cupid's bow was a bit flat. Let's hope it turns out fine because it's red this time. That does not look even, oh my gosh. Straight away from the edge of the Cupid's bow, I just went straight down to my normal lip line. And I'm again going to underline the smallest bit. Now it's time to color all of this in. Now that's definitely a much bigger palette than I usually have, and I think now that it's in red, it definitely looks a lot better. So to get the most effect, I found you need to overline the middle and underline on the edges. Especially the Cupid's bow, you overline the top part, the middle part, and then you drag it straight down to the outer corners immediately to get it to look nice and puffy like this. And then you just kind of make sure you balance out the edges. I ended up just lining my normal lip line a little bit at the bottom because then it looked a little bit too thin. But because you have to go the full 9 yards, I'm again going in with this light pink and I'm going to apply the smallest bit right here in the middle. I guess the red's a bit much to handle, so I'll be going with a liquid lipstick. Just a very nude pink to add a bit of a lighter color in the middle. That didn't make much of a difference, so I would not necessarily recommend that. I don't think it's necessary, at least not with red, but when I do something like a brown lipstick, I found that putting the lighter color in the middle really does help. I think with red, we just like seeing the true color. And then lastly, the clear gloss, again, to just hide that ridge you can see there. I'm not gonna put on that much because I don't like wearing that much lip gloss. So I'm kind of just gonna touch it on and then rub it together. Make sure I get those tips at the top, that's the important part where I want to hide the details. And there you go, super juicy and super big lips. And hey, like, those are statement lips, hey? Let me put you guys back to where you came from. So yes, I would definitely say my lips look a lot bigger. They look a little pin-up-y, and I think it's just the way I overlined it, but I think this definitely worked. One thing I'd recommend you watch out for to make sure it looks natural is you have to make sure your lips meet at the same place. Like you can't overline your bottom lip and not your upper lip and then it looks like your lip ends wider than the one on the top. It's gonna look really funny. So you just want to make sure those ends connect properly, and then I think it should look fine. The most important thing, I think, is to make sure you only really overline in the middle, not on the edges, because you're gonna like overline here on the edges and then suddenly have to tuck it in to hit the normal corners of your lips. That's when you get this sausage lip effect, because it kind of ends in a dull end and not in a sharp end the way it usually does. So that's a good way to avoid it, and that's one of the common issues people have with overlining their lips. Also, lip gloss or anything shiny is a really good idea. I thought it would make it look worse, genuinely, because now the light kind of catches the edge of my normal lip. So if you look at it now, you can kind of see where it is. But with lip gloss, it just looks like light is catching your lip. Where if you're using a matte lipstick, you still see that edge and then you're like, oh, it's the edge of your lips. Where now that it's shiny, you're like, oh cool, it's just shiny. I think it's the usual concept of texture distracting from straight lines. I think that's what's happening right now. It's definitely an adjustment here. I feel like my whole face shape has like changed now. I feel like, especially from a little bit of an angle, like my cheeks are puffier and everything. It is very strange. And my guess would be that this would work with any lip color you actually want to wear. Don't go for an early 2000s nude type of look, it's gonna look funny. But anything else should be good to go. Anyways, that is enough of my opinion and enough of me talking today. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I hope you learned something today, even though I was just experimenting. And if you know how to actually overline your lips and you do something different than I did today, feel free to drop it down in the comments. I would love to learn. If I read something entirely different down there, maybe I'll do this video part 2, where I try different techniques and see how that turns out. And if you're down in the comments trying to see if anyone has said something you haven't heard of before, feel free to hit that like button while you're down there so that other people have a higher chance of finding my videos, and hit that subscribe button so you can see what other things I usually get up to. It's gonna go from a red like this to a white like my teeth. I was gonna say white like my sunglasses, but I'm not wearing my white sunglasses. Hold up. It's gonna go from a red like this to a white like this. But then, like I said, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye! Someone's drag racing.